Good morning, everybody. My name is Dylan Duffner. I work in development and construction industry and studied finance and economics at Montana State University. And I wanted to share my thoughts on some of the concerns I have regarding gravel trucking in the coming year and how you might want to address those concerns. This is the first bullpen webinar that I'll be conducting, and I hope to continue these periodically to open up some informative discussions. I have a guest today, Pat McNamee, who will be providing additional insight in today's topics. If you notice in the top right, you can minimize this screen and send anonymous messages in the Q&A tab. And I will, if you submit the questions, I'll address those at the end. You can give questions to either myself or Pat. All right, so let's get started. Market dynamics are changing in the construction industry. It's resulting in a trucking shortage in the United States. The current shortage is reported to be about 50,000, with an anticipated increase in that shortage. According to an industry analysis by DAT Solutions, just one truck was available for every 12 loads needing to be shipped at the start of 2018. This is the lowest ratio we've seen since 2005, and it's happening because, for one, there are labor shortages across the board. Some of the reason for that I'll get into more later, but also trucker demographic. The average trucker is a 46 to 55-year-old male. And as this older generation of truckers retires, we aren't doing a very good job of enticing new entrants into the industry. It's not a glamorous life. You're away from your family. Truckers often have health concerns, and you have to get some dirt under your nails. So to bring new entrants into the industry, you have to compensate them accordingly, something that we aren't going to have a choice but to oblige, because in an industry that has incredible momentum, growth has recently slowed, and a lot of companies are turning down work because they can't find good help. So you can anticipate price increases and trucking shortages. A lot of the reason for that is because of market dynamics. Oil and gas industry stabilizing to much more near a market equilibrium than we've seen in the past. Frac sand hauling. After the oil and gas crash of 2014, gravel trucks were cheap and easy to get, but guys have since moved over to hauling frac sand and can make that transition easily with the implementation of sandboxes, which is pictured on the top right. An owner-operator can easily drop their belly dump or side dump and hook to a flatbed with no extra equipment needed. We already saw this happen with stabilization companies. Also, economic growth is affecting the shortage. Transportation of consumer goods. People are shopping more. This is great for the economy, but not so much for employing trucks for construction. And residential construction materials are up. Apartments and family homes are being built at an accelerated rate. And to make the shortage worse, natural disasters. California fires and recent rainstorms. Large wildfires destroyed or damaged more than 10,000 structures in California last year. That's a higher tally than the last 9 years combined. We also saw hurricanes in Florida and Texas. Based on the historical example of Hurricane Katrina in 2005, construction worker wages and material prices can be expected to rise potentially by double-digit percentages. Again, remember, you can submit questions in the Q&A tab, which will be answered or shared at the end of this webinar. Okay, so trucking will be more of a problem going forward. So what options do companies have for hiring trucks? At this time, I'd like to bring on Pat to discuss the shortage and contractors' options going forward. Pat has worked many years as a superintendent and project manager in the Western United States. His resume includes mass excavations, large highway projects, and dam projects. Pat, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you bet. All right, so Pat, we've established the anticipated shortage for gravel trucks. Now I'm going to kind of weigh the pros and cons of the primary options and get your opinion on them. We'll say, for our example, you have to move a few 100,000 tons of road base, and you only want to use belly dumps. All right, so the first option I looked at is wrapped material pricing. You can have gravel pits include trucking in their price. The pros of this: convenience. You only have to procure and pay one company for both materials and hauling. But the cons: two parties don't reconcile data with one another, keeping both parties honest. So the material you're paying for, you might have uncertainty on whether or not that's actually what you received. Also, these guys are going to be busy with other regular customers and local projects. So, you might result in inconsistent truck counts or getting kind of a mixed bag of trucks. One day you might have 30 belly dumps that you need, but the next day your crew is waiting for trucks because you only have 10 and half of them are trucking pups. Have you used this option before? What's your experience using this option?
Oh, yeah, we have most definitely used that option before. I prefer a different way, finding someone who's in charge of all the trucks. It keeps keeps the scheduling easier on our end.
Sure. Yeah.
For example, the core project in I-15 in Utah, we were using up to 100 trucks a day in 4 different areas. The project was broken up into 4 different areas, and having one guy in charge of all the trucks and trying to keep the same people in each different area, so they understand where they're getting material from. We had 3 different pits that we were hauling from, and 4 different areas. So keeping people in one area and current with our schedule and where we're at, it helps a lot.
Nice to keep that consistency.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. All right. We have option 2. You can self-procure locals. If you're looking for trucks to haul your road base, you can go out and find local owner operators and procure each one of them individually. The pros of that, you might be able to pay less. We might see guys that are close to home working for a little less. And then also the cons, though, are recruiting and procuring a bunch of local guys. That's a headache. Yeah, and these guys are going to have local obligations. So you have the same concerns as the last option. And in addition, belly dumps might not be prominent in the area. And having these companies invoice you individually might stack up some papers on your desk,
Yeah, definitely creates more work on our end. Not saying I'm scared of work, but
yeah.
it's nice to have the company that can go out and get them. We had a project in Montana. I was working in Utah at the time, but I came back home for a couple of years, built the railroad, and we really didn't have to go out and look for trucks. The guys would come in. Everybody had a truck around there. Everybody's got a truck, which is fine. It's just that particular project was schedule driven and had major liquidated damages.
Oh, yeah.
And so my time was more valuable spent with our crews procuring stuff for structures and making sure our equipment's moving forward, while we went out and found one guy who had all the trucks and everything we needed for the project, and then he could come and sit in with our meetings and understand the schedule. Just like I said before, the one guy who can understand where and when we need things is definitely a big help.
Yeah, definitely. Kind of brings us to our third option, which kind of rolls right from that. You can broker trucks, where a broker's going to kind of bring in trucks from out of town, might hire some locals as well, but he kind of handles that whole self-procuring, process that, and lets himself take care of that and keeps the trucking concerns out of your busy schedule. Pros of that: convenience of procuring and paying one company for hauling, and you get consistent dedicated trucks. If you want 30 belly dumps every day, that's what you'll have dedicated to your project. It presents an opportunity to have the same guys on your project day in and day out, so that you don't have new guys learning the ropes every week or every day. The cons of this, though, are concerns on whether or not the broker is legitimate, because there's a lot of worrisome trucking brokers out there. So Pat, going forward, knowing the shortage, how appealing is this option for our example, requiring all belly dumps to move a large amount of road base?
Yeah, no, it's good. The broker's good. Going out and finding someone who's reputable and understands what they're doing, that is part of our job. The nice thing that I see that you guys have is, number one, you're doing this, these webinars to help people. And two, it's real quick. Everybody seems to be behind the computer nowadays. So I can click on Conveyable and understand what you guys have done and what you're doing, what you're working on, and phone numbers. I can call and find out anything I need to know real quick to make it comfortable for us to be successful. And if we're successful, you're successful.
Yeah, absolutely. So while hiring a broker seems to present a clear advantage to completing large remote projects, it's important to hire legitimate brokerage companies. More and more uncertified trucking brokers have entered the industry in recent years, and these companies can cause tremendous operational and financial risks for general contractors. So it's important to do your homework on the broker to make sure they meet certain professional criteria. And, it's pretty easy to do your homework. I got a little checklist right here. Just go on Google, do a quick safer lookup and make sure that these guys are FMCSA registered as a broker or freight forwarder. You know, it's a pretty easy step to make that happen for these companies. So if they didn't go around doing that, it tells me it's not their core business, and, you know, they might not be competent in their work. Also, you can get on the Secretary of State website really quick, make sure that they have a contractor business license in the state where the project is. Next thing you can check, website. You know, go with your gut on this one. Does their website display them to be competent? Does it seem like their focus is trucking and truck brokering? Or, you know, do they not have a website at all? That's a big red flag to me, because they may not be legitimate. You know, they might have just got into this. Who knows? You know, they might not be very easy to get a hold of. They might be stiff in some of the carriers that they hire. And, you know, those are just definite red flags for me. Also, do they have experience in brokering trucks for construction? We've seen a lot of OTR brokers like to move to where the money is, so they get into construction because they heard they can make a little bit more. Lastly, check trade references. Do they pay their bills? You can see Lloyd Christmas over there. That's how a lot of these brokers operate. Truckers that get hired by brokers oftentimes do not get paid. I worked on a wind farm in Oklahoma that was shut down because the hired trucking company was not paying their truckers. And this is a massive risk for general contractors. And one way to kind of mitigate that risk is to check and make sure that they are bonded. This next slide, rip-off report and truckers report, websites where a lot of folks in the pool of potential hires communicate amongst one another. I've eliminated the contractors involved, but there are hundreds of these reports making truckers weary to work for certain general contractors. And you don't want this to be about you. You know, sometimes it's as simple as these guys that were on there just bit off more they can chew. I spoke with a guy in Texas this last fall who said he was starting to broker trucks because he had heard that he could make some extra money on the side, and he was currently working as a janitor. And while I respect the ambition of people like that, they simply don't have the administrative or financial means to get into the business, you know, especially when it's a large government project or something. That's just out of the realm of possibilities for them. Some of the consequences of hiring kind of a makeshift trucking company or broker, because it won't always be a broker that this is worrisome for. You know, you always want to check to make sure that your subcontractors are going to be safe for you to use. And I recommend always having a bonded trucking company. But the consequences can be carriers can go after the contractor's bond or their client to get paid if they're not bonded themselves. It'll give the general contractor a bad reputation when the broker lies to his carriers and says he was never paid. And then it makes these truckers that communicate a lot amongst one another, makes them not want to come work on projects for a certain general contractor. Also, general contractor might look foolish if they got a double pay after the broker takes the money and runs. This is a big reason why I recommend employing a bonded broker to protect yourself. Pat, how important are these concerns to you? Is this something you'd be worried about when hiring a subcontractor?
Oh yeah, always. I'm always worried about. One thing that we've started doing nowadays is, or more recent projects is bonding, making sure subcontractors and vendors are bonding as well. And I recently just got asked to bond as well on a project as a sub for a general contractor. So the clients are looking at it, I guess, is the big thing. The clients want to protect themselves, and providing the bond and making sure that you're reputable is big.
Yeah.
One comment that got made to me on a project here recently that I haven't been awarded. I gave a price to a general contractor, and the one thing he told me was, you might be a little bit more in price, but we know that we don't have to worry about it when we get to the job.
Peace of mind.
I haven't heard that for a while.
Yeah.
And before, when I first started, I'm not that old. I've been doing it for 10, 15 years. But when I first started, it was you go and find the cheapest guy and you manage him.
Yeah.
Which is good. You've got to be cheap, and it seems things are changing. They want to make sure the companies are spending those extra dollars protecting them, and on the other hand, protecting the client as well, and in turn makes prices higher. So no, it is big understanding what you've done in the past and being reputable and making sure you can meet all the requirements for the client.
Yeah, so they're valuing peace of mind and risk management.
Risk management.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So, in summary, trucks will be hard to come by. Weigh your options. Do your homework when hiring brokers. If you have a large remote project, hiring a broker is going to be beneficial to completing your project as smoothly as possible. You have more things to worry about than trucking, but make sure to do your homework. I hope this has been informative, or at least got you thinking about it. And at this point, we'll open up for some questions. All right. So I got this first question. It says, well, I've actually been getting some great pricing this year. I'm not sure there really is a gravel trucking shortage. Well, a couple things there. You might be getting some great pricing right now, but I'd be very wary to trust that pricing, especially if you're getting it, in December and January. These guys might not be working currently, but they're the same kind of guys that are going to jump ship and go to the project that pays more once the trucking shortage becomes very apparent come May or June and going further from then. So, that's, I guess, the quickest way I could answer that one. I think if a trucking shortage isn't in this exact moment, it's simply because of the season. I'll say I don't understand what frac sand hauling has to do with gravel trucks. Oh, that's a good point. So the gravel trucks, if they're not working right now, they may just drop their trailer, hook up to the flatbeds, and start hauling frac sand because they can get a lot of work right now because those oil production is going up. Right now you're seeing the market stabilize, and that's what's going to happen there. They can easily find work and hook up to those. They don't need a pneumatic trailer, I guess, is the gist there, which they used to need in the past. Question for Pat. Have you had any bad experiences with truck brokers? Have you had good experiences?
Both bad and good. And maybe not with brokers. I think we had better experiences with brokers or a person who is in charge of, if we hired it, if our guy was managing another broker that I worked with, as far as from a project manager standpoint. It's good because they're there, like I said before, in your meetings, or you can relay the schedule and where they need to be and how many trucks we need to be. And I'm not going to say even on the broker's end is tough on their end, because at the end of the day, we've got to understand our schedule. Yeah. And scheduling is important on our end. So you could point the finger at me as well and say, that's fine. You ask for 30 trucks every day, but every day, 15 of them go home.
Yeah.
You've got to do better scheduling. And we've had that. Yeah. And we work on those issues as we go through with the broker to understand how many we need, how many, what types of trucks, how many people are in the trucks, and in some cases, who's loading them. But bad experiences was really without. We try to manage, and this was early on in my career where we get stacked up with paper, and we're trying to reconcile truck tickets and what material actually got hauled. We did our job. At the end of the day, the guy comes back after the project. I think it was even 6-8 months after the project was complete, and gives us a bill for like $350,000. Says you owe us, and then we end up getting sued by him, spending all this time going through every single truck ticket again. And at the end of the day, we were right. So it's nice to have someone who's running things and understands what you're doing. One thing I would like to point out that I've noticed, you said, do your homework. And I'm not just saying it because I'm here, but, and maybe other companies do it, I don't know. But the homework that I would recommend with Conveyable is their ability to eliminate that paperwork.
Yeah.
So at that moment what you're hauling, where it's hauling from, and who's got the loads. That question seems to always come up with budgeting for the future, I guess, predicting where you're going to be at the end of the job. We got to do that every month, if not every week on some jobs. And knowing where you're at is very important. So that's part of doing your homework, is really understanding that these guys Conveyable can provide that for you. So the good experience there would be saving paperwork. The bad experience in the paperwork is we went through a bunch of litigation. So
anyways. So it'd be nice to have all those records cemented into your system they can just sign into. All right, so it seems like hiring a broker would be too expensive. Isn't it easier and cheaper to hire locals? I guess I'll kind of interject first. It's a lot more expensive than, maybe a small percentage on top of the price to have your crew sitting. I mean, I don't know if you've had experience where, a lack of trucks leads to that, having your crew sitting waiting on trucks, but that's a lot more expensive than a fraction of.
Yep, no, that's right. That goes right back into the planning, and having the person be able to sit with you. You can make sure that they understand your needs.
Yeah.
Is it more expensive? Sure, but there again, it goes back to what I just heard from a general contractor. Yeah. You might be more expensive. Don't worry, please. I still am interested in your price. That tells me that they've done their homework and they understand what you're bringing to the table. So, in some cases, you can hire the locals, but it is nice on bigger and schedule driven, and a lot of what things are now is schedule driven. People want things done on time, and it's nice. It's nice to have that person.
And also a lot of, if say a gravel pit or something supplies trucking, that extra percentage they're taking is going to come from somewhere. So,
well, the local gravel pits, you can, but at the end of the day too, they've got their local clients, not just local truckers. They've got their local clients where they're going to keep them happy maybe before you. And like you said, there may be a day where the local client is building a shop and he wants all the gravel at right now, and he's going to give it to him because he's local and you're not. And at the end of the day, it costs you more not having your crews working. So
and those their local customers were around before your project came into town. They'll be around after, so they gotta keep them happy.
And that's fine. Maybe at the end of the day, everybody's working together, but that depends on the project too. So.
I got one that says, from a project manager, do you see a difference between price and cost for a subcontractor, specifically in trucking?
Price and cost. Oh, not necessarily. I think, like I said before, if you pay a little bit more, then it's for the different reasons. Someone may have missed this or that, but not having crews sitting either is huge. Not really.
So then there's I'm a project manager for a large construction company in Nevada. I'm approached daily for truckers looking for work. How is there a shortage? That comes back to that first question we had, where if, at this current time, there is kind of a lull in the work that we got going on, but anyone knows that it's not highway season, and there's a lot of these truckers are sitting right now because it's January, but as soon as that busy season kicks in, you're going to feel the shortage. It'd be better to just get ahead of the curve than to wait around and have me say I told you so, I guess, basically. We got one more question. This is the last one. Isn't it true when you hire a broker, you usually get jalopy trucks and no communication? That's not true, but it can be. If you don't hire the right broker, you just got to make sure that there's a understanding of exactly what you need for your project, and that the broker is able to follow through on that. It's as simple as checking references, making sure they're legitimate. guys aren't going to stay in business and keep getting large projects if they operate that way, where they just get you a bunch of equipment that you didn't want and there's no communication. You got to make sure that the policies and everything they have in place as a company is up to par with your needs.
Yeah, if you got questions, what I do, bring them in.
Yeah.
Make sure all the expectations are set right up front.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then there's no fighting down the road.
Yeah.
You'll tell. You bring them in, you can tell.
Oh yeah. All right. Well, that was the last question, so it wraps it up. Hope we got you thinking a little bit and you enjoyed it. If not, then maybe you can hop on next time and ask some questions and get us talking about a topic that you'd like more. You can always email us to the bullpen if you got some certain questions that you didn't get a chance to answer here, or if you have anything you'd like to hear on the next podcast. All right. That is it for today. Thanks for coming.